Brian Lara. Oh, it's Cricket. I was like, I don't know that name.
Hello, friends. Welcome to episode. What happened there? It's just I just turned it into one beautiful word. Welcome to episode. Well, hey everybody, what's up? Welcome to episode 144 of the Noclip podcast. We are here to talk about the video games we have played. We are here to talk about the great customer service that Unity provides to their developers. We're going to talk about a lot of is a weird ass episode. You probably know because you've seen the title or the thumbnail. I don't know what those things are yet. We've figured that shit out after the fact. But one thing I don't have to figure out is who I'm talking to today because they're right in front of me. Frank Howley, how you doing? Nice shirt, Saved by the Bell vibes. I'm digging it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's I don't know. I hate opening with weather crap. It was hot and warm. I'm bringing the button shirts back, so I'm trying to be comfortable. Yeah.
It's been a weird year, man. It's mid-September. It's we've had late heat waves. It got really cold up here, and then it got really warm again. I don't know. We had a little shindig at our house, like a little sort of my kids kindergarten class all came to our house for a bit of a party, and it was just melty warm randomly, and I was back in the world of great. I can wear long sleeve shirts and shit. Didn't happen. Jeremy, how are you doing? Yeah, you don't have AC up where you are, right? I
do not have AC.
Me neither.
No, it was 86 inside of my home recently.
Celsius.
Also, when
Holy shit, that's
Celsius.
Get out of
yes,
there.
my blood was boiling. I've mentioned this before, but not on the podcast. That when it gets really hot here, there's like a swarm of beetles that take over the entire hillside.
Oh.
And so what I do every year is I have a sort of America and the Taliban relationship with the spiders here.
Oh, yeah.
Which is that I allow them to operate freely so long as they take care of the beetle problem.
Excellent.
But it gets out of hand every year. So if you look outside of the glass over there are two absolutely giant spiders just hanging out right outside my door. So now I'm afraid to go outside. So I haven't been outside in at least a day.
Yeah, the spider situation is getting pretty out of control down where I am too. I am interested in who is the Taliban and who's America in that situation.
I'm America, and the spiders are the Taliban, and the beetles are the communists in the 80s. I would assume
the Russians.
Yeah, they're the Russians, and I'm trying to arm the spiders.
Got it. This is a pre-Gulf War I situation where America is funding the Taliban to get the Russians out of there.
Yeah, it's maybe Al Qaeda is the right. I'm not sure. It's been a while since I've read about the Cold War.
Yes, I haven't listened to this episode of Blowback yet.
I haven't watched any Adam Curtis in a while because I've been trying to stay sane and healthy.
Jesse's been editing that while he's not editing this one. Happy September 12th to everyone. Noclip's birthday, September 12th. We turned 7 years old. I was talking to somebody about this yesterday, and I think 7's the worst birthday in the top 10. I think it might be the worst one.
Why?
I'd like to hear a counter argument for this. Because one is great. One is it's first birthday, brilliant. Second feels special too. 3, hey man, we got 3. We got 3 behind our belt. And then 4 is kind of all right, we're getting to 5. 5 is a bit of a milestone, right? 5 is you get you got a company for 5 years to give you a little dish or something. You know what I mean? A little snow globe. 5's pretty good, obviously. 6 is a bit weak. 6 is all right, 5 is done, but 10's far away. And then 7 is it's not near anything. It's not near 5. It has all the weakness of 6. I feel like when you get to 8, now we're talking, 8. We're only 2 away from 10. And then 9 feels oh shit, man, we're almost there. We got to close out the decade. We got to have, and then 10 is obviously legit. So I think 7 might be the weakest one. I'd like to hear a counterpoint.
Yeah, 4 and 7, or 4 is kind of the sub 5, 7. Those are kind of the 2 weakest ones.
Yeah, 4.
Also, when do I get my at Blizzard when they work at a place for a certain number of years? They get a little statue.
We should get something.
Of the hero of Orgrimmar, and he's riding a dog horse. When do I get my dog horse statue?
What should it be? You're right. We should do this, but not. Should we do it for 7? I mean, that's not fair on Frank.
I don't want to remember 7.
Well, hey, Frank, when did you get involved? 2019?
Yeah, June 2019.
So you'll be coming up on 5 this summer. We could just fudge it. COVID felt like a decade, so in its own way. Maybe what would we get though? What would be a fun one? I know Bethesda do the little crystal sort of statuette with your name on it and stuff.
Yeah,
Blizzard had fun things. I think. What should we do?
The first thing that pops into my head is like a platinum statue of Clippy from Microsoft Office because we're Noclip.
Well, you're right, but that is the antithesis.
I guess it's
of what
no
we stand
clip.
for.
Yeah, that would be much clip.
We give you that and a hammer.
Okay, all right, and then you get a smash.
Fuck out of them. Yeah.
What about like the key to the city? Because our whole thing is accessing multiple game studios, and if I had some sort of skeleton key, then I would have a lot more access.
Like a very large, intimidating key, like a key that is so large and heavy and grotesque that you hope you never see the door it opens.
Yeah, like the back is like a big skull, and you don't really want to know what it opens.
You know what the Kingdom Hearts Keyblade is?
There you go. Okay, how about a Kingdom Hearts Keyblade? That's pretty good.
Because then we'll have to do a documentary on fucking Kingdom Hearts.
I've never even played it, but I would like a big key sword. That sounds cool.
It's got Goofy in it. It's Disney, and how did that happen? What a weird game to happen.
Right? I think that is a good idea.
Those are IPs that should not... That's the oil and water of cartoon characters, I feel like.
I would love that documentary would be fun though, because none of us are really into Kingdom Hearts. So it'd be like a very kind of like tepid outsider perspective on like, I think people are really into this, I'm pretty sure.
We got away with it on Final Fantasy 14. That was, I mean, you know about Final Fantasy. I didn't fucking never play one of those games to save my life. And we got away with it on that one. We need, if you have an idea, let us know. Podcast noclip.video. I feel like, because the thing is, like when you get the thing, it's usually something it's like a present. It needs to be something you want but you wouldn't buy yourself. And like, we're all adult men. We buy things for ourselves. All we do is give gifts to ourselves when we have the opportunity. Life is about saving enough money to gift yourself something you want. That's it. We're just replicating birthdays whenever we can. So like, what is it? What would you buy for yourself like that? Or like, what's a guilty pleasure you wouldn't like? That's why I don't smoke cigars. But if I worked at a company that gave me cigars, I'd be like, yeah, maybe. Like, I'm never buying this for myself, but like, maybe. I don't know.
I've smoked a cigar like twice, and one of them was when I graduated high school. It'd be like a graduating high school thing, you know what I mean? Where like my parents are very anti-tobacco, but they're like, smoke it up, dude. You're out of here, you know?
Yeah, well, no one thinks you're going to pick up the habit of smoking cigars.
Yeah, I got addicted to smoking cigars after graduating high school.
What a fucking terror. Imagine that probably did happen to one person. They smoked cigars one time, and now they're just like, can you imagine? Like, I remember moving to America and having a bit of a cigarette thing going on, and in London that was like, hey, no problem. And in San Francisco it was like I'd fucking leprosy. Like walking down the street smoking a cigarette, people were looking at you like, what is wrong with you?
I remember when we went to Tokyo for the Square Doc. I didn't realize that in Japan you're not supposed to smoke in public because you can smoke inside so many places.
You're right.
It's frowned upon and or illegal in almost everywhere to smoke outside, as far as I know. Yeah. And so I was walking around Tokyo smoking a cigarette, and people were like looking at me like I was a criminal, and I was like, I thought like a lot of people smoked here. I'm really confused.
It's so funny. The drinking in America one is weird to me. The fact that you're not allowed to drink in public, because like it's not like there are that many opportunities in Europe to drink it. You're not on a Wednesday lunchtime, you're not like walking down the street with a can, but like there are scenarios I've never had to think about it. So like if I was, I don't know, like going to a sports stadium or event and I had a can or a bottle or something, or I was hanging out at like a festival, like if there's a theater festival in my town every year and like people walk around with drinks then, but like you would get arrested, or you have to put it in a brown bag, as if like nobody knows what the fuck's in the brown bag. Like oh, maybe he's drinking water from that brown bag.
It's a nice Gatorade in there. I've always felt like the brown bag thing, and the fact that in a lot of places they can they decriminalize cannabis, but it's not legal. Yeah. So like, if the cops can come and harass you and give you a ticket, but they won't take you off to jail. I've always felt like it's kind of just carte blanche for them to hassle you, because then you're like minding your manners, you know? You're getting like stoned or drunk, but you're like, all right, but keep it low key, guys, because like at any moment we could come in and throw you in a cage for 2 years.
We don't want the probable cause just sort of sitting there. Yeah. I don't know. Frank, you got any ideas? What would you like if we could, get your 5-year Noclip?
A nice malt liquor in a brown bag.
No, I don't know. Like once a year, I'll treat myself to a really nice figure. Like I have a giant Sub-Zero statue of a king from Tekken figure. They announced a Urusei Yatsura figure, which is this alien anime 80s character. There's I don't know. Figures are things I never buy, or rarely buy for myself, but every now and then I'm like, yeah, that's pretty cool.
That is good.
I don't know, but that's the
a
only
good idea. Because that is the guilty pleasure purchase, right? That's a real like, oh, fuck, I really want this thing, but like, I don't want to spend. And because figures are kind of like expensive for what they are, you know, like the artistry is there and all that, but like they are generally like really good ones are hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So yeah, that's not a bad idea. Like everyone picks a figurine they can have. What would you go for? What was yours? Would you go for if you could get any now?
Urasei Yatsura. Let me see if I can find it.
What are we topping out on? What's like $500 or something? Is that would that get you a good one?
No, I think this one was like 300. I gotta find it. It was at Anime Expo and it was gorgeous. It was I don't know. I gotta find it. There's a lot.
I would go with there was a $150 Bloodborne figure that I used in the Signalis video essay.
Nice.
And initially when I pulled the footage for that, it was me kind of not like making fun of the idea, but kind of saying like, this is a silly thing to do because essentially we're trying to recapture the initial feeling of playing that game and how much we loved it. But by the time I finished the essay, I kind of came around and was like, oh, but like it does feel cool to, you know, look at that and remember how much you like Bloodborne. So I think it was like a Figma one.
Figma, or yeah.
Ligma.
That's the thing. You get those really gnarly. At PAX, they had a lot of these, and you're kind of like, man, that would look cool, and I'd like looking at it, and then I'd probably forget it. I had it for a while. And then I'd look at it again and go, yeah.
I remember Bloodborne.
Look at that thing. I like how the light bounces off of it. Yeah. Maybe
Yeah,
like
this is
a
pretty
gift
sick.
card for limited run or something like that. It doesn't.
Okay, yeah.
It's not. It doesn't. The problem is you can't like show your grandkids and go like, "Yeah, and that was when I worked at Noclip for 5 years," and it's like a fucking.
Shut up, Grandpa! You're such a nerd.
It's like a sexy Resident Evil, like fucking, you know, like voluptuous. Yeah.
It's like a risque Jill Valentine
Exactly.
figure.
Yeah. Dead or
And your
alive
grandkids are like,
beach
they don't want to see
volleyball.
that.
And you're like, yeah, back in my day, this is how they rewarded. There was no jobs for life back then.
Oh my god, the economy was in shambles, but we got by. We got figurines and made it work.
Do you think they made special Dead or Alive beach volleyball ones that were like plastic figurines, but then they had jiggle physics on parts of them? You know what I mean? Like it was made of like rubber or something, so you could like
That has to exist.
They do have figures that have squishy boobs.
They do. Yeah. They have mouse pads as well. Could get you a risque.
What about a nice mouse pad?
Yeah. Lula
That's
VB
practical.
mouse pad.
That's very practical.
They're always tiny though. Like I have a fucking huge one here. I have that Hades one. They sent.
Oh,
to
yeah.
me. So it's just like the side. Because now mouse pads are just like the entire desk. You get those ones. We'll be selling one on the Noclip store. Erica's amazing Doom triptych. Sorry, not Doom. We're not selling something Doom branded. It's a demon game. We'll be calling it or something like that. Hellish. I think it's called the Hellish triptych or something like that, which kind of
nice.
Works, I guess.
It just says heck in the Doom font.
Exactly, yeah. Massive thanks, of course, to all of our patrons, including our amazing Battle Pass holders, Battle Royale Games, Arno, Richard Matherson, James Brown, Jason Drury, Mark Rojas, Ryan Cobb, Tucker Morgan, Crimson Cyclist, Sven Huster, Tim Robinson, Forrest Pruitt, Andy Fegan, Darren Birmingham, Eric Hamilton Schneider, Cameron Laird, Alex Sharp, Alex Goucher, George Sakotis, Jacob Godserve, Silvintro, James Andrew Adams, Tohir Tiliev, and Ryson. Thank you all so much for funding us for 7 years. 7 ans. We are very excited for the next year. Well, I don't want to go through the whole thing. If you go to noclip.video, you will see, you hit on documentaries, you can see everything split up by year. So we have it all in there. And year 7 was a funny one because we had there's a lot of stuff that went on that was like either docs were still working on, like Dwarf Fortress, where I kept getting COVID, or someone else got COVID, or whatever happened. Apparently Tarn had COVID. That's why he wasn't at his PAX panel. So that's the set complete. Myself, Zach, and Tarn have all now had COVID within a year. But we had there was a lot of mad stuff going on. And a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes as well, still, that we can't really talk about. But year 7 was, I gave them all little names on the website. This was slowly emerging, I called it, because we were sort of doing a bit more in-person stuff. We did the black and white greatest hits in October. The history of Crystal Dynamics was obviously a really big one that we were putting together for a while there. And that was our first in-person studio doc for, since COVID had reared its head. So that was a fun one to put together. Hyperlight continued. We also did that Last of Us Part 1, which was another in-person one, which was great to do. The Age of Empires Definitive Edition one was a lot of fun as well to put together, another remote one. That and the black and white stuff. The remote stuff does really well and is a lot of fun to put together, and we're working on a couple of those at the moment. Actually, there's one I was doing interviews for today that I can't talk about, but I think folks are going to really like it. We did Choo Choo Charles, of course, up in the Olympic Peninsula. Frank put together that video about the completionist at the mix during E3. And then we had Immortality, a fantastic opportunity to talk to all those folks in person, and of course Vampire Survivors as well in July. And it's been a slow end to the year, but we're in post-production on like 6 different videos, and they're all... The Burger King one is so close, man. I'm right there. It's like almost all done. I have to do the intro. Jeremy, we need to film stand-ups outside of Burger King or something. And that's
go through a drive-through.
That's not a bad idea, actually.
What if we go through a drive-through and when they hand you your order, you grab it and then you turn to the camera and start doing your lines?
Oh my God, it could be like that. You know that BBC guy who did the stand-up with the rocket? Yeah.
Yeah, you got to nail it the one time you get though.
Shit. I mean, there's nothing stopping us from just going back in the drive-through.
Yeah,
and like trying again and again and again. Like,
that's not illegal. Yeah. They would love that, actually. I mean, that's just business for them.
55 hamburgers, 55 shakes, 55. Good stuff. Actually, speaking of comedy TV shows, that Mega 64 Nirvana, the band, the show thing, holy shit.
That's unbelievable.
Frank, you knew the context of this, I think. What Jeremy sent it to us yesterday. Obviously, Jeremy was like patient zero for Nirvana, the band, the show here in Noclip. But obviously you work with Mega 64 for years. How did this whole thing happen?
So Mega 64 every like few months they'll do a giant live stream event from their warehouse where they do a 6-hour event stream, and every half hour is a whole new segment, a new bit, and a lot of times they'll do collaborations. And so for the 64X, which just happened, I don't know who reached out to who, but with Nirvana the band, the show, they're currently in the process of filming a movie. And so as a surprise to everyone, they shot basically a mini episode of Nirvana the band, the show, about 64X with Matt and Jay trying to do convention voiceover announcements. And what I found out also is that Rocco edited all the footage himself.
Oh,
which blew my mind.
I couldn't tell because Rocco completely nailed the editing style of Nirvana the band. Totally. And this is the first new footage of Nirvana the band, the show that's been like public in years, because they shot season 3 and halfway through like post-production, like Vice Canada shut down, so they had no network to show it on. And so that footage, and they want to release it one day, but I don't know if they have the rights to it or they just never had the post-production budget. But there's Nirvana the band and the show stuff's been under wraps for so long. Matt Johnson's had a very successful directing career. Blackberry's blown up. Jay McCarroll is still composing other things. But yeah, this short was like 7.5 minutes now. A so final mastered version's on the Mega 64 channel. But yeah, it's great. It's amazing.
I couldn't believe how well written it was. It was such a funny bit. And if you don't know who these guys are, and you may be aware of from not the Vice show, but from their web series was that whole We Shop Wednesday bit, right? That
was the thing that kind of like blew them. I mean, that was the first thing I saw, and then I just started going back and seeking out their other stuff, because there was the Vice show, and then there was also the web series before, which is much rougher, but it kind of follows the same arc as the whole premise of the show is it's 2 guys who have a band called Nirvana the band, and are unaware of why that is a bad idea for a band name, and they're just trying to get a show at this local venue called the Rivoli, and it's basically just all of their weird harebrained schemes as they try to get a show at the Rivoli.
And it's like a docudrama, because it's like they're acting, but everything is filmed in public with people who don't know that they're being filmed. And then like the script changes based on what happens with the unscripted parts. And then they do a lot of like fair use fuckery.
Yeah. My favorite thing about their production modality is it's obviously a lot of improv, but like you said, they involve other people. So like one of my favorite examples is they go to the library and they're trying to like solve some problem related to the arc of the episode, and they go up to some random dude and they just start talking to him about the things that their characters are going through. And the guy makes a suggestion like, "Oh, why don't you guys just go do this?" And then it immediately cuts to them doing the thing the guy suggests. And I don't know, it's like this it's like this trust fall or something. Like
Yeah,
they believe
yeah.
so much in the modality of their production that they're willing to just throw themselves into it. And the Mega 64 episode actually it worked perfectly, because even though it's less than half the runtime of a total episode, it still has the arc of them doing the initial thing, going out in the world, and then a random person just somehow perfectly playing into the plot of the episode.
Believe it.
It was crazy. I don't know how they do it, man.
You could tell because you can see the arc in your head, because you're like, oh, are they going to go for it? And then they're like, and then they totally go for it. The part where he said they're talking about which energy they're bringing, and he said white guy with dreadlocks.
So good. Oh my God.
Great
I love
stuff.
those guys.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. All right, let's talk about some video games we've played. So my honest to God, like I played some other bits and bobs here and there, but I am fully indoctrinated into the world of Blasphemous 2. This game is absolutely fantastic. I have since gone back and played maybe 90 minutes of the original Blasphemous. So it's only the start I've played of that. So take this with a pinch of salt. I wanted to play a bit more before we got on today, but there was just too much going on. But I've played maybe 16 hours of Blasphemous 2. I think number one, I forgot this game was. I mean, I should have known it's a $30 game, but in my head I thought, oh, this will be like an 8-hour thing. You know what I mean? Like it won't be, like Half-Life was like an 8-hour game. There are games that are full price games that don't take fucking 50 hours. Not everything is Starfield. But it just keeps going. There's just so many new areas. There's so many new unlocks. There's so much. Okay, so what Blasphemous 2 is, the way I would explain, it's a Metroidvania. For one, it's a very 2D. There are doors to be opened. There are different areas. You have abilities. The abilities open doors. There's an element of puzzle platforming. There's combat, that type of thing. From my experience going back and playing the first Blasphemous, it feels a lot less like that, and I could be wrong. Maybe I haven't played enough of it, but it seems a bit more Soulsy in its difficulty and in its combat. The boss fights in Blasphemous 2 are definitely like, you have to figure out how to beat this thing, but not in a way that feels out of place in a normal 90s platform game like this, like a Mega Man or a Rogue or a Metroid game or something like that. It just seems like, like each body has its own thing. It's just the aesthetic of the game is dripping in this Goya-esque painterly sort of look to it. So for me, it's been really easy to play because I don't find it particularly challenging. Some of the boss fights are hard, but I think it's been pitch perfect in terms of not too difficult, not too frustrating. It has the way in which it's Soulsy to me is that it has a lot of these like characters in the world that need something, and it's very vague. There's no objective or mission marker that's saying bring 6 wax seeds to this guy who's like a giant. You walk in the room and he's like this giant man with a breast who is trying to feed this infant by squeezing his breast, and wax comes out. Like it's like this game's fucked up. It's like you walk in a room and there's just stuff like that. Or there's like the lady who like makes your Estus flasks bigger, basically, right? Like you have these blood vials you use, and you bring her, I think it's flasks, shards, and something else, and one of them increases the amount of health you get from it. One of it increases the length of your health bar, and the other one increases the number of flasks that you can have. But when you bring her the upgrades, she's standing there. She's just like elegant, sort of like beautifully painted lady. And she's like, bring me flasks and I'll help you out, Gavna, whatever. And then there's all these little cherubs floating around her. And then when you do the upgrade the first time and then you go back to her, they're like starting to deglove her. So like her skin on her hand has been like pulled back, and she has an exposed muscle hand, and the cherubs are like holding the skin in the air, And then you go, okay, can I upgrade again? And she's like, yeah, no worries, Gavna. She's not actually Cockney, but she has like this little ethereal British accent. And then you come back and she's like holding her like skin over her chest, and the cherubs are, she's like a fucking muscle skeleton face, and you're like, okay, cool. But like but you're picking these things up and you have to remember where people are or like mark it on the map. Like there's this old lady who's dying in one of the rooms and you go into a dream of hers. You kind of pray beside her and go into a dream. And she tells you something like weird, like, you know, don't come back until you've blown out the candles of my little ones or whatever. And then eventually you find out what that thing is. And when you do that, and every time you go back, there's like a weird mini game kind of thing you have to do. And then you get unlocked. So it's a lot of like not notepad and pen necessarily, but like just having to figure out the esoteric nature of this very beautifully and intricately planned world. So the boss fights and unlocking the biomes and that sort of stuff kind of flows in a way that feels pretty obvious. Like they mark that stuff on the map and, you know, you learn all the idiosyncrasies and you can kind of see like, oh, I probably need a double jump to get up there and eventually I'll get that right. And then I'll probably need like a dash or something like that. And then eventually you start to unlock these things and unlock abilities that the weapons do in particular and different rosary beads that give you different statistics. Your base stats don't really change, but you get these little totems that you can have that basically will up your stats. So you can socket them in different ways. And then the same, you can socket your rosary beads. You unlock different rosary bead sets and you can socket those for, you know, they protect a certain amount of miasma damage or lightning damage. Or I have one of them that like makes a ghostly noise whenever I'm near a secret area because there's secret rooms you need to do. So like there's always something to be doing. And I'm mostly done. Right now it says I'm 96% of the game map seen. So I think I literally just have the boss fight left. And then I believe you can keep playing maybe and unlocking stuff afterwards, which I definitely will. I love this thing. Yeah, I can't talk about it highly enough. I am completely besotted with this. It's easily going to be in my top 5 games at the end of the year. I've never played a game that looks like it. It in every way, it. When I went back to play Blasphemous 1, I was like, yeah, the controls are better in 2. The combat's better. The art is even more interesting. That's obviously subjective, but like there was lots of ways where I was like, oh yeah, this is a marked improvement on this first game. And the first game, yeah, I think it was Dave Oshie told me it sold 2 billion copies. I'm not surprised. It's got 27,000 reviews on Steam and very positive. Came out in 2019. Blasphemous has been out since August 24th, and it has only about 3,000 reviews, so it hasn't done insane amounts given. I will say, like, Team 17's publishing it, and this isn't a knock on them or anything, but I haven't seen much of it around. You know, I haven't seen a lot of advertising around, or I haven't seen a lot of, you know, coverage maybe. And especially for a game that looks the way it looks, it feels like something people should be screaming about, you know? Like, I think it just looks really incredible. It catches my like I said on the last time you mentioned it, I've only played the first one for maybe an hour or two, and I kind of liked it, but it kind of kicks my ass. I put it in my backlog because it seemed like a difficult game that I wasn't in the mood for. But every time I see a screenshot of this game pop up, I'm immediately like, oh, I have to play that because it's so arresting and it's so like. It looks so different than video games normally look. Like a lot of the things that you're describing that you're doing in this game are they're kind of like the same verbs as other Metroidvanias. That's like going to the place and getting the ability and doing the thing. But the sort of like ethereal Catholic guilt wrapper for the whole thing really, I feel like it transforms your mindset. I don't know. I feel like it goes along. When we talked about Starfield, we talked about how we all wished it was kind of weirder and did like more daring, bizarre shit. And I feel like it really does just go a long way, even if you're kind of not reinventing the wheel mechanically, or if you're drawing heavily from influences that people like, you know, in the past, like Hollow Knight and other Metroidvanias and stuff, just making it like, you're not just like upgrading your health, you're like engaging in this horrifying ritual. Yeah. I feel like it really elevates it. I don't know. For me, that's way more intriguing to me, even though it's largely kind of a cosmetic transformation or like a psychological difference, you know what I mean? It's super, like it works. And it doesn't just work because like the game looks beautiful, but the way in which they, like it feels super cohesive. Like the idea of the world and the characters in it, and they all have a very, again, soulsy kind of, you know, is this a place that exists? Is this a place that used to exist and you're kind of in a ghostly version of it? Like that sort of vibe you got in the original Dark Souls games. And then there's so much variety. Like I don't even know how many different like biomes are in this game. Like 15 or something. Like they just keep appearing. Like the guy with the baby is in like this area that's like wax themed, like candle wax kind of themed, which is super interesting. And there's like a crazy wooded area. There's like this, sort of haunted mansion type one, and then a very austere tower, and then the old town, and then the mine underneath, and all that. And like each of them have their own thing going on. There's just so much variety in terms of environmentally. Some of them are very vertical, some of them are very swoopy, some of them are large rooms that you have to sort of figure out. There's one of them that has a mechanic where you basically turn everything upside down. Like there's so much stuff going on, and then they have so many different types of enemies, and then they double them up in really interesting ways, and they have variants of lots of them. One criticism I heard is that people said there's a lot of palette swappy enemies in this, but I actually thought that was pretty good because each enemy has its own thing going on. Like there's a skeleton guy who holds like a sort of it's almost like a devil pitchfork, but like with 3 candles on top of it, and he'll sort of like lunge at you and do it once, and then there's a variant of him. So you have to, but every time you learn him, you have to either dash back or jump over his head. You have to time it perfectly. And then there's a variant of that guy who'll do it twice, and he covers a lot of distance. And the first couple of times that happens, you really have to go, you kick your ass. You gotta go, fuck, okay, I've gotta bait him once and then do this. And then they'll double them up with like I feel like there's been dozens of enemies that are all acting differently, but in a way that you sort of intuitively then understand, and you're like, oh no, I got 3 of these guys, I got to do this, and you've got AoEs you can use, and you can swap weapons, and you've got special abilities. Like when I roll, I create like poison gas, and there's a poison gas cloud I can drop, and then if I hit it, it'll move. So some of the big guys, I'll just like drop that thing, smack it towards them. So when they're slowly moving towards me, some of these dudes, they're just gonna like ding, 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 like hit by those while I'm working on these other guys. And you get in these like arenas, like sometimes they straight up will close the doors, spawn out a bunch of these fuckers. You got to kill them. Second wave, kill them. Third wave, and then it'll open up the gates. So you get in these like little combat encounters too. Yeah, it's very special. I'm really into it. Yeah, we should. It might be a game of the year game that ends up coming around that we talk about, and that's probably the last time I'll talk about Blasphemous because I spent 2 weeks talking about how rad it is. Frank Howley, let's go for a tonal change here from Blasphemous 2 to DJ Max Respect 5. I have never heard of this series. Is this literally the 5th of these?
Yeah, so this game, I think the original was called like DJ Max Portable. It started out as a Korean exclusive PSP game in like 2006.
Okay.
And so the way I found out this game, I'm friends with this one guy online named Rupin, who is a Beatmania freak. He is obsessed with the Beatmania DJ stuff. He does like TikToks and like all that stuff. And he gifted me this game on Steam, and I'm like, all right, I'll check this out. And I got hooked immediately. So DJ Max Respect, it's a Korean rhythm game. It's on Steam, it's on Xbox, on PS4. I got it on Steam because there was a massive like DLC sale. And it's a rhythm game that you can play. If you want to go extreme, you can play with your keyboard and have 100, like 8 different like keystrokes. I'm playing it with just 4 inputs, but you can use an Xbox controller. And it is like, I don't know, it's to me, it's almost like playing Tetris where I'll pick a song and for 3 minutes, that's the only thing I can focus on. And it's just like beautiful anime visuals, like when music tones click when you hit the right buttons. It feels so satisfying building combos.
How does it play? Is it like Guitar Hero kind of like stuff is streaming towards you kind of? Okay.
Things come down and there's like key presses where you have to like hold it down while doing others and flipping like that. Some you have to use the joysticks to like, it's almost like your DJ pads you have to scratch with, but it feels good. And the music is all just like, it's just, I'm getting serotonin just drip through it. It's so cute and sugary. There's a lot of like hardcore. K-pop, yeah. There's like K-pop. There's like very cutesy, like anime type stuff. They do collabs with other series. Like there's Guilty Gear music in this Maple Story stuff. It's a completely random game, but the fact that it was $10 and I scooped up a ton of DLC, it's been the thing. Like, I think it's been
Is it $10? I see it's $50
It's
on
$50
Steam.
now. It went down to $10 during the sale.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
It's a
So
big sale.
apparently this game goes on sale often. So I recommend everyone, like, even if you're skeptical, put this on your Steam wish list. I've been playing it on the Steam Deck and it works great. Like it's perfect.
Yeah.
Like it started as a PSP game, so this is awesome. There's so much music on here. One thing that is cool that my friend showed me is you can go into an online lobby, and if your friend has the DLC, the only thing you need is like their equivalent of a battle pass, but then you can play any of the DLC. So what a lot of people do is they go online and they just mooch off the other like servers, but that's awesome. So I like this, and I think part of the reason why I'm playing this is kind of a reaction to like the September, the avalanche of there's so many new games out. I'm kind of like stunned and overwhelmed and like stressed by like, what do I play? What do I play? That it's like the idea of just disappearing to old games now is kind of like cozy. Like I'm playing this, I'm playing Persona 4, I'm playing RE4 remake. It's just like, oh, you know what? I'm like overwhelmed trying to keep up with everything, so I'm reverting back. But yeah, DJ Max Respect has been really fun. It's a nice. Every now and then, last year was Vampire Survivors for me. Like when I just need to chill out, I'll just lie down, play the Steam Deck. And right now, DJ Max Respect is my random Steam Deck kind of like self-care game. But it's also that game where I'll finish a song and I'm like, all right, one more. All right, one more. All right, one more. And I just keep, and an hour will go by, but I guess I needed that. So yeah, I really like it.
Well, if you ever run out of songs, you can pick up the complete edition of DJ Max Respect 5 for the low price of $538.75.
Oh my God.
There's a lot of DLC for this game, Frank.
Yeah.
Oh my Lord.
I regret not getting more during the sale because I would every day I would wake up and be like, let me buy another. It'd be like $5 for like 20 songs. And then the sale ended and I'm like, oh no. So now I'll maximize all the songs I have now, and then when next time the sale goes down, I'll get them. And I'm happy I've pushed myself. I started playing on hard, and now I'm playing on maximum difficulty. And there's so many difficulty variations because I'm only doing 4 buttons, but you can do 5 buttons, you can do 6 buttons, you can do 8 buttons. I don't know if I'll ever get there. And
Is 8 the max?
Yeah, 8's the max, and then there's keyboard mode, which is
Oh yeah,
yeah. And when you play online, you can see other players, so you'll see people who are doing full combos, and everyone's just going to flex. Like I was doing a server last night. I think I'm like level 30 already. Someone joined who was like level 797, and they were doing full clears of every song on the hardest difficulty. And it's like, and yeah, I was like, wow, people, I don't know. There's something marvelous about rhythm games and people who are super good at them. It's like a flow state. Seeing them people play at arcades is always great. And yeah, I don't know if there is a physical version of this, DJ Max Respect in the arcade.
Is there? You said keyboard mode. Does that play like sort of typing of the dead then? Like
I spelling letters.
Yeah.
I have to see what the actual thing looks like. I think there's just a lot of different like musical notes that drop down. But if it was a typing, it would be good.
That's what you get. Max Respect mode. That's
how you earn max respect.
Yeah.
Right. I would love a mode in this. Is there a like a head-to-head competitive mode or anything like that?
There's a ranked mode where you 1v1 people, and
That's cool.
I haven't tried that, but yeah,
I'm picturing like Wario's Woods or like some of the like Tetris Attack, I think, or whatever. But like I was picturing like if you do really well, it throws a bunch of extra notes at your competitor and stuff like that. I like games like that.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, that's cool. I was thinking I had the visual of like that Scott Pilgrim fight with the is it the twins with the keyboards or whatever? Is that? Yeah. I was getting that vibe. DJ Max Respect 5. Pick it up on sale. Soon. Jeremy, are you cleared to talk about this?
Yes, I have permission to talk about this.
Great. So this is a game that is out. Sorry, I should clarify. They're both out. This is a game from a developer that you previously talked about their game It Comes in Waves, which was a sort of a desert-based minimalist open world kind of game that if I remember correctly, it was kind of about grief or guilt or something like that. You've played their latest game, which is it out as of the day we post this recording? It will be out.
Yes,
is that
September
right?
15th is the release date, so it should be out by the time you're hearing this.
And the name of the game is
it's No Sun to Worship. That's sun like the sun in the sky. Not like if you were to call the executives at Unity a bunch of sons of bitches. That would be a different spelling of the. So No Sun to Worship is I'm like hesitant to use genre words around any of these games because if I was to describe their former game, this is Merlino Games, by the way, is the developer. Very small developer out of Mexico, if I'm not mistaken. But It Comes in Waves was a sort of like third-person shooter survival game with a presentation that was almost reminiscent of something like Star Wars Galaxies or like Knights of the Old Republic. But the thing I really liked about It Comes in Waves was I would describe it as a like frictional experience. I think what this developer does really well is that they make these very minimalist kind of semi-abstract games, and they're really not afraid to push the player in interesting ways. So It Comes in Waves. If you die in that game, you start the whole game over.
Right.
And similarly, in No Sun to Worship, if you die, you start the entire mission over. So So what it is a third-person shooter, essentially. I would describe it, if I was going to give like a touchstone to describe it, I would say it's kind of like Metal Gear Solid 1, a little dash of Splinter Cell, and Hotline Miami is kind of the other one. So what you're doing is...
that's what it looks like from the videos. Even the crunchy, like it looks like Splinter Cell or like a Metal Gear Solid 2 kind of, like the pixels and the colors and stuff.
Yeah, it's the art is absolutely beautiful for it, and in fact, it has kind of like a
that's a better word for the pixels and the colors. Yeah, the art. You're right. Yeah,
I think they call that art. The whole time I was playing it, I was thinking that if these people made a PS1 era Dead Space successor, it would be unbelievable. Because there's kind of like this crunchy, like sci-fi. You'll see like glowing terminals that you don't really know what they do, but it's like, I don't know. The world building is unbelievable and also so minimalist. But so what you're doing is it's kind of this mission-based stealth shooter game. And you're going through these like dark cavernous environments like prisons and kind of like dungeony caves, like compounds, military, kind of like Shadow Moses kind of looking stuff. And you're killing enemies and you're trying to get to these dudes in orange jumpsuits who look like prisoners of war. They have like black bags over their head. And what you have to do in every mission is punish those people by killing them. So when you start the game, a normal game will say like start, continue, options, exit. This game has from bottom to top exit, settings, and punish. So to play the game, you hit the button punish,
which is at the bottom.
No. Sorry, I was going bottom to top.
Sorry.
So as to have dramatic reveal of the top X.
Yes.
The interesting thing about the whole like punish thing is that, so in the description for this game, it says that it's about art. It's a game about art. So far, there has been no overt references to that in the game. But I keep casting my mind to that, and I'm trying to like draw a reference between going around killing all of these people and what this game is trying to say about art. And so far, what I think it's trying to, I mean, like, this is no spoilers. I won't talk about anything later in the game or whatever. But this game is like, I think it's trying to get you to question sort of like the incentive structures in video games, because the intro sequence of the game has archival footage and is very like old Fallout, where they're like, we blacked out the skies to like see our enemies, but it's very cool and dramatic, but it doesn't tell you who these people are. It doesn't tell you why you're trying to punish them. It doesn't really tell you who you are. And so you just have to take it on good faith that you're doing the right thing. But every time you walk up to one of these dudes, they're just like sitting there helpless, like bound and gagged on the floor. No. And then you can go up and like shoot him in the head. Or there's like stealth takedowns, which are, I'll talk about why those are important in a minute. But like you go up to this dude who's just like tied up on the floor, and you just like put a knife in his jugular, and it doesn't feel good. You know what I mean? Like It's like the animations are so crispy and the sound effects are good and the art is great, and yet it still feels wrong to just go like murder someone who's tied up on the floor.
Execute this rendition person, whoever they are.
Yeah. So it's doing a lot of interesting things thematically, but mechanically, there are a few different enemy types. There's like the basic soldier, who you can sneak up on them, one shot them in the head with your silenced pistol, they go down, no problem. But then there's these other guys who have these bug-eyed sort of helmets on, and they're pretty heavily armored. So one shot in the head kind of just like cling, like off the metal of their helmet. So you almost have to stealth kill them, or you risk alerting everyone in the area. In this game, you have two weapons. You have a pistol, which you can keep pretty low key, and then you have kind of like a submachine gun or assault rifle kind of thing. Ammo scarcity is pretty rough in this game. So like going in, it's not like Hitman where it's like, oh, you can go in guns blazing and do it, but you could like perfect it as well. Most of the times I went in guns blazing, I inevitably would run out of ammo and then kind of have to go like crawling around if I wanted to finish the mission. So it's a lot about like, because you start every mission completely over if you fail, the stakes are so high that, because even in the first mission, the first corridor it's a long corridor. You have to slowly crawl through a vent. You go down ladders like incredibly slowly.
So the tension is like just ratcheting up the whole time, is it?
And the game is constantly calling your attention back to it. It's like it's reminding you that like if you die, you're gonna have to do this whole thing again. And so it's funny because, like I said earlier, I think that Merlino games, the way that they design games is very unafraid afraid to put frictional elements in front of the player.
Right.
And I think that when you describe that to someone who's like playing a game after work for fun to blow off steam or something, I don't think that sounds like an enticing pitch for a game. But if you're looking for like an interesting sort of subversion of what games are about, and like games as kind of like an interesting art form and the unique things that games only can do, I think it's absolutely brilliant, because what it does in my brain is when I get 5 minutes into that 10-minute mission and I'm like sitting by the corner and there's 3 dudes in a new room and it's my first time getting there.
Oh God,
I'm sitting there for like a full minute just watching them and like seeing their patterns, and you can like aim at dudes and mark them too and kind of like see where they're moving through the walls and stuff.
Right.
But it like immerses you so much.
Which is you're not hitting F5 and just running in all guns blazing.
I play a lot of emulated games, especially like I've been playing Metal Gear Solid 1 off and on for like on an emulator, and there's always the temptation to just hit quick save and then just run in and see what's up. And every time I'd get to one of those things, I'd be like, oh God, I really want a quick save right now. Like the little tickle would come in my brain that I wanted to do it. But because you don't have that option, you're just sitting there. And I'm like so afraid to make a move because the stakes are so high. And I think it works so well because it just immerses you. You feel so grounded in this world. And so like, I don't think I've ever moved slower through a video game.
Right.
And it's not because the game is slow. It's because I myself was feeling the stakes as I was getting deeper into the mission go up and up and up.
Man. Tension ratchets up. Antonio Freire is the developer, it sounds like, and their company Merlino Games is publishing it. No Son to Worship out today. Do you have any? The first game was like $4 or something, right? Like it comes in waves. If I look on Steam now, it's actually down to $2.09. So it's not particularly long. And if I go look at the bundle of games they've made, Undetected was like a $10 game or something. Another one looks like it's The Chameleon was only $1.23. It's down to on sale from $4. So do you have any idea how much this is going to cost?
No, I didn't get any indication.
Cool.
I'm like a little less than, I'm probably about 2 hours into this game, and I feel like I might be coming up towards the end of it. I'm not 100% sure. I've been taking my time with it because I feel like it's a game that wants you to take your time with it.
Probably on the cheaper side then. It feels like in line with some of the other games they've made, maybe. Yeah,
I would say it's definitely more than 2 or 3 and definitely less than 10. I'm not sure where in that range, but yeah, I think it's like an incredibly unique experience. I think people who like kind of what Kojima was doing in the early Metal Gear Solid games will like this. It's way more minimalist than that. I'm not trying to like oversell it as this grand narrative cinematic experience. But I think it does a lot with a little. That's what I like about this developer's games, is that they managed to make me think a lot about games and immerse myself very heavily in these worlds with very few elements. It's kind of like it's like if you went to like a Michelin star restaurant and there was like a little dash of foam on the plate, but you're like, oh, that foam is like worth $300.
Think about that foam. There you go. Yeah, Antonio's based in Mexico. Looks like an interesting game. You will know the price right now if you go to Steam and type in No Son to Worship. So go do that for yourself. Check it out. I would suggest, Jeremy sold me on it for sure, but I would even say, like, looking at the video and screenshots of this thing, it feels like a game I want to fuck around with. Looks interesting. It's really fun and interesting. Yeah, I occasionally, I don't always like a challenging game. Sometimes I like to just like zone out and play something fun. But I think with games like this, if you put yourself in the mindset that you're just gonna like see what this experience holds and kind of just throw yourself into it, I think that there is a lot of I don't know. I think it's very rewarding to play games that challenge you and push you in interesting ways. And I think, sometimes I just want convenience from a game, but when I open myself up to a more challenging experience, it usually feels rewarding in a different way. Absolutely. Loads of games, results vary on that stuff, obviously, and we all kind of pick and choose those difficult games. I'm looking forward to Lies of P coming out soon enough. That'll be another game that gives you both of those feelings a little bit, gives you the easy parts and the challenging parts too. I played Karting Superstars, which is out, I believe. Oh, it's actually out now in early access. So this is from Original Fire, who made Circuit Superstars, which is a great little game. Was released, it was during COVID, 2021, late 2021. It was kind of like an isometric. It's hard to. It had the look of a. It had the look of a arcadey like racing game, but it was actually like technical and tricky. And I forget if it was in early access, but I know that I played it super early when it came out originally, and then they added quite a lot to it. Like originally it was mostly sort of like rally car, stock car kind of stuff, maybe sprint cars, and then they ended up adding loads to it, like RV race, races with caravans on the back, trick sort of modes and ramps and stuff like that. They added quite a lot to it over the whatever many years. It was either in early access or it wasn't, or it was just a game that they were adding content to. They just put out this game, Karting Superstars, which looks very much like Circuit Superstars, but is fundamentally different in other ways. It's still the same, like, it's tricky. Like, you need to have your head screwed on. Like, this isn't a game where you get, like, replays where you can rewind and take it again. It's not a game with, like, you can literally turn rubber banding on. It's in the menus. Like, it's set to 0, but if you want, you can put rubber banding up if you want. It's about, like, learning the tracks. It's about, understanding, the best lines and then sort of executing those and whatnot. But it's all about karting. So it's all about go-karts, which is where most sort of professional drivers these days cut their teeth in karting. It's super competitive. And yeah, I've been enjoying it. I've been playing it on my Steam Deck, and I think it works really good for that. I did not play Circuit Superstars on my Steam Deck. It felt like a game I was sitting down on my PC to play a lot. Obviously, I think it was before the Steam Deck, but this one feels like it. The camera's perspective for this is more traditional. It's like behind the cart, as opposed to the sort of isometric tilt shifted kind of thing they had going on in Circuit Superstars. It's in early access, so it's a little bit light on content is the only criticism I'd have for it. It's $16 on early access at the moment. They also have a demo of it though on Steam. So I wanted to mention it because I know Circuit Superstars was a game that a lot of people have either played or are aware of. And I didn't know that this one was coming out, probably because it's early access and you tend not to hear all that much about these. But yeah, it's kind of hardcore. I kind of felt myself going in at the start. I was like, oh yeah, this is like Circuit Superstars. I need to have my head screwed on. This is not like, F1 Race Stars or one of those sort of arcadey, rubber bandy Mario Kart style karting games. This is very much like, it's not that, and it's also not, doing karts in, any one of the like Project Cars 2 or something like that. It's not that on the simmy end, but I've found it moreish. Like I was playing and I was like, oh, this is a bit hard, and I had I restarted some races and did it again. I had like a really punishing race where I hit a bollard and it gave me a 1.5 second time penalty, and I was like, fuck, I gotta and I quit out and then went back in, and then I ended up playing for like an hour last night, just like chipping away at it more and more. They also give you a little incentives. One of the reasons, we talked about this a lot on the stunt derby stuff, but like one of the reasons why I don't like a lot of driving, like I like driving games, I've played a lot of them, but one of the problems I find with them is that there's like this disincentive pattern where if you're in first, you have nothing to win. You've everything to lose, especially if a game is rubber banding, because then you got blue shells coming your way. And if you're not in first, you're frustrated you're not in first. And so it's kind of like a discipline thing. It's a little bit that way with like boss fights, right? Where you have to like calm yourself down and get into it. But it's still like a sort of a design issue that I come up against. One of the things that they have in this is they have like these little mini objectives you can get, like touch a bollard or drive 2 laps without hitting into anyone or drive a lap without going off the course or stuff like that. And they pop up in the bottom and you get points for those, which sort of add into your total, which then presumably unlocks a bunch of stuff. So I thought that was kind of neat because it basically sort of like carrot on a sticks you to maybe do some stuff. So I was like in the lead and was like, hit 3 bollards. And I'm like, maybe I'll try it. I hit 2 of them. And then the second time I hit it, I went off track and lost a bunch of time. And the guy behind me caught up and I was like, nope, not doing the third one. But it was fun. It added a little bit of, a little bit of texture to the whole thing. So yeah, check it out. If you're interested in Circuit Superstars, I definitely give it a go. The demo is up, as I said. It's in early access today until September 20th. So that's through this day next week. We're recording on a Wednesday. It's only 10% off, so you're only saving like $1.40 or something. But yeah, should be interesting. I wonder how this will do for them off the back. I'm surprised maybe that they've gone for this instead of Circuit Superstars 2, but then also I can see why. Like, this is an interesting modification of that core game. Like it's presumably looks like it's the same engine and a lot of the same assets and stuff, but the camera shift really does make it play like a completely different game. And it is tackling something very particular. So I do wonder if, like Circuit Superstars, I assume this will have a similar trajectory, that they'll start adding like crazy shit into it over the next couple of weeks and months. But I don't quite know. We'll have to find out. They have all the details on their Steam page. And there it is. Karting Superstars. Any other games before we wrap up today's show and get to our email here?
Should we talk about Unity for like 5 minutes?
Yeah, let's talk about Unity for like 5 minutes.
I feel like it's pretty important. I feel like.
Sure. Yeah. Do you want to take it?
Yeah, sure. I'll try to keep it. It's also a developing story. Things have shifted a lot in the last 24 hours. So,
and they might shift between the 3 days we get. Yeah, this goes up. Yeah,
exactly. So I will do my best to not overburden anyone with details and just kind of give the rough shape as we know it. So Unity's former pricing model was kind of there was like the free version, there was the middle version, which was like $400 a year, and then there was the top version, which was like between 1,800 and 22, depending on if it was like the pro or the enterprise. Right. They have now introduced a new pricing structure that takes effect January 1st of next year. And it's essentially, if you have one of the lesser plans, it's 20 cents per install of the game that they charge after a game meets a certain threshold. That threshold is making $200,000 in a year on that game's sales and getting 200,000 installs. So that seems pretty reasonable on the surface of it, because like for Unreal Engine, if you make $1 million, every sale beyond that $1 million, you pay a 5% rev share to Unreal. So if you make $1,001, you give them 5 cents. The problem is that they are retroactively applying this to games that were previously made with Unity without this as part of the agreement, as long as those games are still on the market. And the other huge problem is that and this is the part that's kind of shifting, the installs thing is the issue, that they are charging 20 cents per install. Now, initially, when they made this announcement, that was every install. So that means if someone installs a game, uninstalls it because they want to play Starfield, and then finishes Starfield and goes and reinstalls that game, it's double charging the developer of the game for both of those installs. Yeah. Even so, whatever, that's like maybe someone does it like 20 times. That sucks, but it's not catastrophic. However, it does. I mean, it's bad. Don't get me wrong. It's fucking awful. But the way it gets worse, because what that opens people up to is, there are certain game developers who run afoul of certain communities on the internet and then end up with like a lot of trolls who are regularly harassing their forums and Steam forums and Discord and stuff. And what essentially this creates is an opportunity for like 100 people to like constantly set up bots to constantly install and reinstall and reinstall and reinstall, and essentially like bleed dry any developer that they so choose.
Which is kind of a funny way of getting back at a company. Like if you were to, take the who the bad actors are out of the equation. That is quite funny. It's a very silly metric. Like why would you need like I just don't understand why installs would be the metric and not fucking sales. Like is it because of free to play? Is that what they're getting at? They're like, oh well, hey look, if you're going to charge for DLC, that we're not going to be able to cover that in this agreement, so I guess we'll do it by if the game's installed. But like what the
I don't know.
How did it even get that metric? It has to be supplied by the developer, surely. So
that's another wrinkle in the old equation, is that people asked about that and were like, is this a self-report thing? Is it like, how is this calculated? And Unity's response was essentially like, don't worry, we're taking care of it. We're like tracking this data.
We know.
Yeah, we know. We have proprietary technology to know. And the proprietary technology will tell if it's like fraudulent, if it's piracy or whatever.
Oh my God.
But essentially the entire agreement is just like, trust us. And it's, saying trust me immediately after foisting a new kind of retroactive agreement on a bunch of developers is like, doing something untrustworthy and then saying trust me is pretty egregious. So yeah, it's bad for a number of reasons. They've walked back the installs thing now, and they're saying that it's per machine. So like if someone installs it on their computer 100 times, it counts as one install. But if they install it on their computer and Steam Deck, it's 2 installs.
That's still not great.
It's still not great. If that was actually the case, it would be semi-reasonable. But the problem again is that, I mean, I've talked to a bunch of people. We have so many intelligent like computer scientists in the Discord community for Noclip, and the concern that they've all unilaterally raised is essentially that you could just like set up a virtual machine, like bought a different ID for your computer, and then just it opens up. It turns every video game becomes a hole through which you can stick a knife into the person who made it. And so,
Wild.
yeah, so it sucks. And as someone like me personally, I've plunked in the last couple of years like thousands of hours into learning Unity and getting good at it. And so like, even though I don't make my living that way, it still sucks because it's like the tools that I'm proficient with. It's like, do I start over? Do I learn? I mean, it's not starting over learning a new engine. You still have the general coding knowledge and stuff like that. But do I set myself back and like, no one's paying me to like learn Godot. Am I just going to use my free time for the next 4 months to learn Godot?
And terrifying for folks who have got games in development in Unity with big teams as well, who are like presumably wanting to get them out next year, right?
Yeah.
It's like the type of thing you don't want to be worrying about. It's very strange. Like it's just such a weird, like clearly the CEO, like John Riccitiello is CEO of Unity and has been since, I don't know, 15 or 14 or something like that. Obviously had a famously successful time at EA and was largely responsible for, I mean, like, how long was he there for? Was he 2007 to 2013? Weirdly enough, some of the most creative years at Electronic Arts. Like there were things that went in there during that was when all the investment went into new IP and we got stuff like Dead Space. Like he is, in many ways not popular as a CEO type guy, but in certain circles within games, he's actually like fairly well thought of. Obviously when he took over Unity and Unity had this big shift from this like, chintzy little privately owned company to this publicly traded multi-million dollar behemoth, because it used to be, if it had the vibe at the very least of being this little like indie developer's best friend, right? Solving a lot of problems without having to go, get yourself this much bigger engine. It feels like this has always been the trajectory, but even still, the wording and the details in this seem just completely divorced from any reality that any of these people will want to be part of. It just seems crazy. Like it just seems like even when you like do the math and it doesn't, maybe there are edge cases where it's a nightmare. There's lots of cases where it could be bad, but it just like you said, I think the fact that they just one day you can wake up and your agreement with this software thing might hypothetically tank your entire company just is like, how can there be any trust there? You know what I mean? It seems so dangerous to operate a business like that.
Yeah, I think it's going to blow up in their face a little bit because they're like, not only are there a bunch of sort of like big indie developers talking about class action lawsuits and stuff like that, but the other thing is that one of the other bad use cases for this is something like Game Pass, like a subscription service, because say Game Pass gives you like $250,000 to put your game on game, or like the Epic Game Store, like a free game or whatever, like anything where they're mass distributing a game without like a point of sale, then all of a sudden you're opening yourself up to incurring massive fees that could be like double what you got paid to put it up there in the first place if you hit those thresholds. And so Unity's reassurance to all of those developers was, oh, don't worry, we'll be billing the distributor for those costs.
Oh my God. So Microsoft was like, what?
Yeah.
What did you say?
Microsoft's lawyers are in like the Matrix gun room right now, like loading everything up. So yeah, I don't know. I can't see a world in which they don't walk this back, but even if they do, it's still, who's to say they won't do it in the future? Who's to say they won't do something, equivalently pig-headed in the future? So it sucks. It really sucks.
Yeah, very bizarre. They're in a weird spot. I don't know. We'll have to. Yeah, time will tell on this. I'm with you. I find it very odd that this doesn't get, they've already stepped it back a little bit. Maybe they got to push the boat out to see how far they can go kind of situation. Yeah, I mean, Unity stock is doing, as well as anyone was doing after the highs of 2021, right? We all sort of had that weird little COVID bubble where everything, there was just so much money sloshing around. They have a market cap of 14 billion at the moment. So like, it's not exactly, I mean, that doesn't equal revenue or anything, but clearly they have money to play for, and they're trying to basically, because in a way this actually does leverage their back catalog business wise. Like that's what I was thinking. If this is retroactive, then in a way it becomes essentially a means for the business to start to almost subscribifies the previous games that were made under Unity, which seems mad. But
it's like if your landlord was like, actually your rent this whole time was $3,000 a month, and I'm gonna need you to pay for all of the months you paid me the other rate. It's just that's not how, like, I don't know. That's not how contracts work. I don't really understand.
It's a licensing agreement. It's different.
True.
It's not the same it's the same as when you don't own the games you play. They can turn off any video game you play right now, and you have no legal means of recourse. So you're right. This seems a bit mad. What is it? Godot? Is that the one?
Godot. GODOT. It's free and open source. Yeah. So Unreal is 5% past $1 million. Unity is this new structure, and I'm pretty sure Godot's pricing structure is that for every sale you make, you have to brag about the fact that you use open source software and how cool it is. But otherwise, free.
Yeah. Madness. Anyway, we'll see. We'll see how it all ends up. Thanks for mentioning that as well. I actually did forget about that. We got one email, Harold, Frank, to close out the show.
Yeah, TX Moose in our Discord asked, hey, did y'all ever move forward on the video game book club thing that was pitched on the podcast a few months ago?
We did. That's a good prescient time to ask that question. So we're aiming to do one of these once a month, and we're not going to do it Patreon only. We're just going to put them up on the feed because there are some weeks, kind of like this week in a way, where we didn't have super prescient stuff to talk about maybe. So next week we're going to do a regular episode, and then the week after that we are doing a book club episode where we're going to talk about one game, kind of like we did with Starfield, but not on a new game, on an old game. And the game that we've picked is Fallout New Vegas. Frank played a bunch of it a few months ago. I played a bunch of it last week when I was getting a bit frustrated with Starfield, and Jeremy's a huge fan of the Mojave Desert, so it's everyone wins. So if you'd like to play along, as it were, go play it on Game Pass. It's for free on Game Pass right now. Frank's got his box copy here. He's been playing on 360 presumably. We're going to have an episode up, so 2 Fridays from now, basically, on the 30th to close out the the 29th, we will have an episode of, I guess, Noclip's Game Club or whatever we'll call it. Our first episode will be a Fallout New Vegas. We'll try to do one a month, just like mix it up basically here on the feed and talk about one game, which should be a lot of fun. Everything else, I have an interview in 15 minutes, which I'm getting out of here, for a project that I have not announced yet. But we'll probably announce both of them pretty soon. We have 2 projects. We announced one of them at PAX already, so go check out our PAX panel. If you're a patron, you can go check out the trimmed version of it over on Patreon. I think PAX's archive will delete their version presently, maybe. I'm not sure. Maybe it's gone by now. I'm not sure. The Burger King documentary is almost done as well. I'm currently trying to find out the Steve Bannon connection. I actually just got an email back from the guy who wrote a book. The book that mentioned that Steve Bannon had something to do with the games, and his response to my inquiry was, no idea, sorry. So that's
a good lead.
Yeah. So further research required, I guess, on that one.
Did you email Steve Bannon?
I have not emailed Steve Bannon. He's out of prison now, is he? I should email Steve Bannon. Should I email Steve Bannon? I might email Steve Bannon. I'll see if I can get his email and then ask him. How about that?
Yeah, I feel like that's not, even though he's an evil man. Yeah. Hey, Steve.
Kind regards.
Yeah. Hope you're well.
Hope you're well. I hope this email finds you well.
I hope this email finds you at hell.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So we got that. We got Dwarfforge. We got a bunch of stuff going on, and we'll be announcing the 2 other projects. The other projects, I'll say it this way: it's a sports game, and some have said it's maybe the best sports game ever made. It's one of them. It's surely up there. It's a sport I've never played. I'd probably be very bad at it. But yeah, we'll have a documentary on that. It's also 30 years old this year, so there you go. If you remember any great sports games that came out in 1994 or 1993 that maybe had 94 in their name, maybe you can figure this one out. So we're doing something on that. I had a great chat with one of the devs on it this morning. And I've got another one in about 10 minutes, so I better go to that. You can support our podcast, fund our documentaries, and get access to all of our extra videos, bonus episodes, the official Discord, and way more over at patreon.com/Noclip. Frank, what are you doing with the rest of your week?
Mortal Kombat Premium Edition comes out in a few days with Jean-Claude Van Damme as the incentive. Beautiful. I'm very excited.
Beautiful. You need a Jean-Claude Van Damme figure. That's what you need.
Oh my God, yeah.
Jeremy, what about you?
Oh boy, I got a little color grading to do. Gonna get outside a little bit. Maybe learn Godot. Maybe just double down on using the devil's tools. I'm not sure yet.
That's why Alex Austin is like twiddling his fingers with his custom engine, being like,
I know. I was reading Tyler Glale, who is coding Mugenics, has a very good article about making your own game engine that I was reading last night in a desperate fury.
Madness. Yeah, I've got a lot of work. The honest truth is that over here, we're starting our 7th year, I would say, in maybe the most exciting way possible. We have so many projects that are happening on the Noclip side. Our sort of side hustle, Secret Tape, has signed some pretty fantastic projects, which will also be, coming out in the next couple of months. We're keeping busy. So, loads of excited for another year of Noclip, excited for our creative fruits over on Secret Tape as well, and excited to keep doing more of this stuff here. Thank you all for being with us on this journey over these years. It's been the longest job I've ever had. Longest job Jeremy's ever had, I think. Maybe it's up there with Frank. Well, I mean, we're catching up on his N64 or Mega 64 time. So thank you all so much. Thanks to Jesse for putting this podcast together. He will be joining us, by the way, on the Game Club episodes, which will be a lot of fun as well. Another great reason to do them. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Enjoy some games. Blasphemous 2, No Sun to Worship, DJ Max 5, and Karting Superstars. Go check them out, and we'll see you next time. Bye!